Today, I'm joined by Andrea Kristina, who plays Alesha on the remote office. What's happening? You're in Ibiza. How
I
dare you?
am.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm loving it. I'm in Ibiza right now, so I'm enjoying the sunshine. But I will be back in London soon.
To be fair, in the UK, it's been sunny too. So,
It has. It has. But I
I mean,
think
I've
I
heard
might come back.
thunderstorms are imminent. So, probably just as you land, that's going to descend.
Don't blame me.
I'm not
Okay.
blaming you. I'm just saying, like, that's kind of the forecast. Um, Listen, tell us a little bit about you first, like Andrea, the actress, the human, like, what's brought you to where you are now, a little bit about what you've done. What's the
So I am an actor. I actually came back into the industry about a year and a half ago. So perfect timing for the pandemic, which is why this was so beautiful to shoot on Zoom because everybody was learning how to do that, and to be able to do that from anywhere in the world was great. Me as an actor, I love doing comedy, but I also love the serious stuff. I always say I either want to be laughing my head off or being running away scared for my life. So
Wait, is that as like roles or just in real
and
life? Generally?
both roles in real life.
Okay, amazing. And so let's let people learn a little bit about Alicia, the character that you play. Then, how would you describe her? How would you describe her in your words?
Not too different to there's a lot of similarities in me that I can see with Alesha because as I said, I before acting I was working for in PR and marketing for several years, and obviously Alesha is in charge of a whole department, the creative side, and I was working, me the Andrea the person was working in communications. So there was that similarity there in terms of knowing how stressful the job is, and the barriers that you're faced when you're part of that creative team, and how you're constantly being challenged with the work you're doing. And then there's obviously the side of Alesha where she uses her yoga and her Zen to like calm down, although sometimes trying to make that balance work, she tries too hard and she loses it a bit. So it's kind of the same with me. So I'll try and Zen it out, but when I've had enough, I'm out.
Yeah, like
So
she
there's
just kind
definitely,
of when it gets a bit intense, the zen goes out the window, and she's
yeah.
just really like freak flying.
Yeah, there's only so many affirmations you can say.
That's true, definitely. And how is she different to you then? Would you say?
I would say I'm more of a spontaneous person. I kind of let things go with the flow, whilst Alicia's very like she has her strategy of the brands that she needs to impress and the people who like she's good at delegating. I was never good at delegating, so that is something that is I will try to take over and do like many things, but she's quite good at saying, right, that we have a meeting today, we're going to get this done, handing it over to Kev.
Which she has to be, right? Because that's the thing.
Yeah,
She's on a team, so she kind of has to be able to include them, but still have a bit of the limelight for herself a little bit.
yeah. She definitely has a professionalism which is inspiring. And I think that's why, with what we will learn when watching Remote Office, why things hit her hard in certain ways, because she's used to a certain way of working, and then things come out of nowhere, and you see the real Alesha breakthrough.
Amazing. That's like, and now,
Try not to give anything away. I was like, oh.
and then season 2, the resurrection of Alicia. Okay, honest answer time. I'm asking most people this. When we first spoke about this,
Yes.
what did you initially expect, perceive? How did you see it being? And how did that change and evolve once we actually went all the way through the process of filming to where we are now? So what was your first impressions just when we first discussed it? And how has that changed over time?
First impression, I remember exactly where I was. I was in my parents' guest room, and you sent me this message saying, hey, I'm working on this project. I'd love you to be a part of it. This is what it's about. And I was like, my first impression was, wow, Ashley is amazing for coming up with this whole concept. And then it's just wonderful how you're inspired by real life events and putting it into a show. And then, but then obviously the second part was how doing this via Zoom, this is going to be a really interesting way of displaying art. So I didn't think too much about it. I wanted to read the script and learn more about the characters. But I remember you saying at the very beginning, like, I'm just working with the characters right now. I'm speaking to the people who would be interesting for the part, and we're going to develop it from there. So I know a lot of the characters were based from the real life. I'm not trying not to get offended, but a lot of it was worked with the actors themselves and who you knew them. So I didn't have any expectations, but I also was excited about it as well to see how it would move forward.
Yeah, it was a big experiment. It is a big experiment. And, it was a thing of we're all locked in. We got nothing else to do, really, or we've got plenty of time. Let me phrase that differently. We've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
Let's do something with it, and let's make the most of what we can do, which is do stuff on Zoom. And tying in those experiences that inspired some of the show and some of the characters, not all of them, and then funneling into this remote world, which everybody's been living in for the last year and a half anyway. And you're right. Like most of, if not all, the characters were being written with the voice of the person in mind, a little bit, to a degree. Alesha's half you and half a complete invention, I think.
Yeah.
And
I think what was also interesting was while the whole panorama was happening, I'm a bit floaty. I was also taking part doing other work with brands, and I was introduced to the world of Slack and seeing how people were using that to communicate. So to incorporate all the ways that marketing teams or most businesses had to change in order to adapt to the situation, and putting it into this script was like super interesting and great to work with, because really what we were doing was what a company would be doing on Zoom, except we were recording it and it was scripted.
And just made up narrative that was scripted. And people had the ability to then improv and springboard off of what the arc was. And that was the idea. Like, here's a framework and a blueprint, but let's jam with it. Like, I've not actually spoken about this on any of these interviews, but the process was very much, we would read and sort of run the scenes, but then normally we'd end up doing the takes, as I kept saying, paraphrased in your own words. So people normally would just keep the lines, but put them in their own little flavor.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, how did you find that process of performing on Zoom, doing it in that way, very much kind of, just improv theater almost, but over Zoom? How did you find it? What were your favorite parts, and what didn't you like about it?
I have to say, I loved that you had a two-part process to the way you wanted us to deliver the scenes and the lines and the characters, and just giving us the freedom to work with the script, going by lines, getting to know the characters, and then just diving in and see what comes out naturally. And I think a lot of the times you were like, that's the scene that came out naturally for you, so that worked. And I think working with Zoom, I remember at the very beginning of lockdown, I did some improv classes, and it was so bizarre, but that was the first time that I was working with actors on an improv basis via the medium of Zoom. So I think that also really helped, but I think mostly was having all the other actors to banter with. And what was actually funny was sometimes with acting, improv is, especially when you've got good actors, improv is so good that you forget that people are improving. So there was a few scenes where I think there was once we were rehearsing and my character maybe got in a fight with another character, and my partner at the time was walking past and was like, oh my God, what's going on? What's happened? And I'm just like, we're filming. So I'm just like, we're acting. And I think also we had another scene, and I think it was Cal. He didn't realize we were actually improving and was just responding as normal.
As Cal, which is basically the same as his character.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that we wrote into the scene as well, for like the hiccups that happen in generally with Zoom, when the sound goes off or when the image cuts or when someone's walking in the background naked. I
That
don't know
didn't
if that
happen on this show, but
but all those things, instead of thinking, oh god, that we messed that up, it was like, actually that's quite funny, let's keep that in. So
and
I
that's
think that was,
intentional, right? Because I mean, it's a Zoom thing. Editing
yeah.
it the past few weeks, it's clunky. The sound isn't always the right level.
Mhm.
The pixels on someone's camera aren't great, and all that stuff comes into play. But because that's people's real life experience of Zoom, I always knew that that was our get out of jail card, because that's just what it is. So we don't have to worry about it being
Like,
like,
what's really behind your lovely remote office green screen there? So you like in the garage or like
yeah,
in the
there's just a
woods?
bunch of naked people walking around behind me.
You're in the shower.
Yeah,
I'm like, get out.
without the water running, which is a very odd thing to do. That's how I do all my voice recordings.
Oh my god, isn't it the worst place to do recordings? Actually, no, that's a lie. It, I like to hide in my cupboard when I do
I've,
like
I've had that. Yeah,
like a big cupboard. I just literally just hop in and just close it, and it's very. But that's in the bathroom. Sorry, I'm sidetracking here.
yeah, I've had that experience. Or like under the bed with like all the pillows proofing around you, all that ghetto stuff. But that's voiceovers, not Zoom acting.
Zoom acting, it's a whole different field. We're going to start seeing classes in Zoom.
Whole different ball game. What I was going to ask was about the technical side of Zoom, though. I mean, you done improv, you done classes. Had you done any commercials or booked anything that was actually performing on Zoom?
Oh, lots. Yeah, I just I don't am I allowed, I don't know if I'm allowed to. So I booked
It's less about what you've booked. It's more about how do you find that process and what's challenging
oh,
about it, because it's such a different medium that's still really new.
yeah. Well, I think the good thing of the last year was I was very much, as an actor, wanting to get involved with what I could online. So I took part in so many workshops, met so many other actors and directors, casting directors. And so at the very beginning, if you look at my very first video, so embarrassing. I'm now looking at it. I had like my raggedy ass curtains in the background. I had one of those ring lights. I looked like an alien. I had like the light was just shining in my face. Like my face was like on the camera like that. Like it was just terrible. And now I've got a whole setup so that I can sort myself out. Like right now, what you can't see is, because I'm using the laptop for Zoom, you are on a ladder. I had to go outside, grab a massive ladder. You have to improv to get the everything set up right. But in terms of booking jobs, like I've booked 4 jobs from the Zoom process. So so it's at the moment, it's the way that I'm getting jobs, the way that I'm getting roles. It's through Zoom. I've had recalls. I mean, the weird thing is when you do the Zoom recalls and you think you're talking to one person, but there are like 10
Yeah.
people in the background which you forget about.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that's really bizarre. But I do like that we can control it. So I like the idea of being able to like know how I'm looking. I know that sounds
No, but
just
know the frame you're in and all that. Yeah.
and I think also there is something really nice and relaxing about being able to do it in your own home, as opposed to being in a waiting room where you're like frazzled by like me running on the tube, and then whenever you go to any kind of casting studio, it's always on the 7th floor. And you're always, by the time I get there, I'm like sweating buckets and I'm like, I'm here for my 3:35 p.m. audition. And then you finally get there.
Or
and
the LA side where you have to give 7 hours because you need 4 to find parking, and then get to the place from parking and hope your parking doesn't run out. And there's always all that stuff. And I guess, in person has its benefits, obviously, because it's a different vibe and it is much more fluid. And for things like callbacks and recalls, when a smaller sort of pool of actors are picking from, it's super beneficial. But for those first reads, it opens up opportunities to, be in Ibiza as an example. And so your life now isn't beholden to having to be 24/7 living in the city where, stuff is cast out of, because you can do it from wherever. And you've got a nice balance with that now.
Yeah, I mean, initially I wanted to move back to London, but then when the pandemic happened, I was just like, let me see if I can do both here. And it actually, now everything is via self-tape. I haven't actually received any in-room auditions yet, but I'm sure that they will start
They are
again.
happening. They are happening. I know people that have been doing them, and casting people have told me that they've started doing them again.
Good.
But I think,
I mean, it's different, isn't it? You get to actually work with the actor and see what they're like in person.
the option is always going to be there of, but if they want it to be a self-tape on the first round, then
Mhm.
I think that people are going to be open to that more often.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. I think if for me, once it's only England with their restrictions. Coming to Spain is fine. Going in there, it's like you're paying an extra 350 for all these tests. But normally, when you can, I could just pop on a flight tonight if I wanted to and go back to England. You know,
Yeah.
for if I have a recall and they want to do it in person, then you're going to make things work for the things you love. That's what I've realized. Stop making excuses. You want to do it, just do it.
Absolutely.
Make a show
You also need to
about
be living
team.
a lifestyle that you're happy with and enjoy. And
Yeah.
you know, if that means living in a place that isn't London and that actually helps you be a better artist, and I think that's more empowering. And you're still making time for the things you love, but you feel
Yeah.
more open to doing that because you're happier in of yourself living in Ibiza as opposed to on the London Underground 24/7, which okay, I'm gonna wrap this up as I've been doing with everybody with quickfire questions in my Jimmy Fallon sort of Tonight Show style with
the psychological ones where you can't think.
No. Because what I'm asking people to do is answer these as the character. So how would Alesha answer this? Which is kind of the same thing. But, so the first question is, have you ever sabotaged your own success? That feels very yes or no. So I'm going to actually be like, how?
How did I sabotage? No, I worked. I never sabotaged anybody because I worked hard every single day of my life. And the reason I am in the position I am today is because I deserve it and I worked for it. I'm just not appreciated sometimes.
I was about to go into character too and come back and be like, that's not true. When do you feel shy?
I don't normally feel shy, but sometimes people think that my shyness can come across as rude.
Yeah. I think oftentimes some people on the team have maybe felt, you know, on first meeting that you're a little bit, you know, blunt or rough around the edges and they take you the wrong way, but they just don't know you yet. That's all it is.
I mean, that is a form of my shyness. It's my way of just saying things how they are.
People don't get that.
No, they don't.
No, terrible question. Terrible question.
Did Kev write those?
He wishes. I don't even know if Kev can write.
Yeah.
Do you feel do you feel happier spending or saving?
Spending.
Kind of knew that would have been the answer.
It's a really, really good yoga shop that opened up down my road, and they've got some really nice like yoga pants. But they're like 150 a pop, so
I was gonna say, yeah, it's probably like super pricey.
Yeah. I just asked your wife to help me.
Are you competitive? She won't do it. She doesn't like you anymore because you stopped going to her classes. Are you competitive?
Very.
Okay, final one. I've asked these to other people, so I can't really ask them. No. Yeah. If you had to live somewhere else, where would you live? As opposed to London, Alesha.
Probably Los Angeles.
Okay.
Great advertising companies there. Or New York. Although I like the sunshine. So LA. Yeah.
Unless you could be like a hybrid and be bi-coastal, like New York in the summer. And then
I like the way your brain thinks. Always got lots of
well, most ad agencies are East Coast, West Coast too, so you'd probably be syncing up as head of creative with both those teams and be in both. So that makes sense.
Now I may already be talking to them because I might not feel like I'm being looked after very well here at Row.
Can we take that up with HR after the call, please? Just I don't think it's a public forum that this should be. You know, Kev at least follows the right channels.
Well, I'm
I'll have to
certainly
bring
not
Kev
being
into it.
Catherine about it.
Not bring Kath into it either. Anyway, that was fun. Awesome. Listen, last moments for you. If you want to, let people know where they can connect with you on the socials. And then if there's anything that you want to plug work-wise that you've got coming out, that has come out, that you can talk about, of course, just, feel free to plug away any of your shiz.
I don't have shiz that I can plug out yet because it's not come out yet, apart from I am in an Xbox commercial, so that's fun. And that's out at the moment.
I saw that. That's cool.
Yes, where they sent me an Xbox to practice, and it's right here with me now.
Amazing.
You can connect with me on Instagram, Andrea Kristina Official, or Twitter, Andrea Kristina 0.